The Giants have a lot of options. I don't love the options. That's the problem. Like, options are good, but if there's nothing that and again, this is just me, that I see as a home run fix, then it's just a lot of options that might not equate to what we needed to equate to, and that's eventually competitive, high-octane football for the Giants. And then the Stafford stuff kind of came across the plate. I mentioned this yesterday. Remember, I mentioned this. And
did you mention it yesterday?
I know. I said that like 3 times. Jeez, what are you doing? Looking for a pat on the back? Like, I don't know why I said that so many times. I actually forgot that I said it before.
You did bring it up yesterday.
I did bring it up yesterday. I brought it up because I thought it was, number one, I think it's interesting. Number two, I think it's real. Now, as a complete deal killer, there's no way that the Giants give up the 3rd overall pick for him. There's no chance that happens, clearly, right? So if you were to bring in Matthew Stafford, and I do believe that the Rams are done, that the Rams are done with Stafford, and I know they're done with Cooper Kupp. Can I see a situation here next year where you have Stafford, you have Kupp, you have Neighbors, you have a young, cheap, explosive running back? I could. And to me right now, Sal, that is a lot more appealing than throwing a dart and hoping Sanders is the guy who more and more I don't think that he is. There's other layers. I don't want to just keep going on, but like if they actually were to get Stafford, then that 3rd spot becomes such a pivotal, a place of power where if you're not going quarterback, now you could trade out. Now you could take the best available, the corner, the run stuffer. Like, there are some interesting options here because of Stafford.
So his availability, I was just asking Hoff this. Hoff, he's under contract but has an opt-out this year?
He has an opt-out right now.
Okay, so if he opts out, that's when he becomes a free agent. They're obviously not going to trade for him, so that I wouldn't think that's ridiculous. So he opts out, and then the path to free agency, Giants have some money. The more I thought about this last night and then again this morning, I think it's a great fit. Because if you don't, now I don't know what the Giants are thinking. If they love Cam Ward or if they love Shedeur Sanders, we can only go based off of what we're hearing, who we talk to, people in the know, common sense. It seems like these quarterbacks, it would be a reach to take them with the top 3 picks or whatever, the first quarterbacks. That's like almost the consensus to everybody, outside, inside the game, whatever. Let's say the Giants don't love Ward or Sanders. They like them, don't love them. Mm-hmm. Then I think I'm in alignment with you that you go get Matthew Stafford, assuming he opts out and is a free agent because you're not trading anything for him. You go get him as a free agent. You have the cap space. He's 37 years of age and a proven veteran quarterback. It's something that, like, he's not going to take you to another level. Well,
no, he would.
I shouldn't say that. I mean, he's not going to take you to the ultimate level, be the franchise quarterback that's going to be a Super Bowl winning quarterback with the New York Giants, but he does elevate where the Giants are at immediately and makes them respectable, at least from the quarterback position, some stability, a proven winner, and then makes it a little bit easier to build out the rest of the team when you're not chasing that quarterback and also not starting a rookie quarterback.
Well, are we so sure that he couldn't elevate the Giants to a championship level?
I don't believe so.
Okay, I probably don't either, but he did it with one team, and he almost did it again this year.
But he is 37.
Understood.
He did it with McVay and with that. And I didn't even think they were that good then, to be honest with you. I mean,
I didn't either, but I think a lot of it was because of Stafford.
Yeah.
And obviously McVay's innovation, but I think Stafford elevated them to a level that they probably didn't really belong at based on the rest of their talent.
Well, it's not the franchise. Maybe the better way to say it is it's not the franchise quarterback that I would be looking for. Meaning like you just pencil him in, that's it, and give you the hope. Like Jaden Daniels a year ago, or the thought of Cam Ward or Sanders being the guy and bringing that excitement. That's not what this is. But if you strip away that excitement and say, well, it's 37, just turned 37, which means he should have at least a couple of good years left.
His arm talent's still elite. It really is.
So imagine building that foundation, and maybe to your point, he can elevate them to a playoff level. Who knows? So you build that foundation while also not only building out the rest of the team, but still searching and not forcing your hand at the next quarterback.
Yeah. And by the way, Sal, you tell me who played better. Was it Matthew Stafford in the snow against the Philadelphia Eagles, or was it Patrick Mahomes in a dome against the Eagles?
Yeah, I thought Stafford played a terrific game.
He did. I mean, he really did. That last throw that got away from him, I mean, it was really tough, whether it just kind of slid out of bounds, but he was making some tight window, tough throws against a great defense, obviously the Super Bowl champions now. And, Stafford is used to going to situations that are fairly moribund. He was drafted by the Lions. He had some early injuries. He certainly elevated them, not to the highest level, but he definitely pumped some life into them. I just think he's got, I think he's an easy leader. I know he's got a rocket front arm. And the only thing that I would have to wrestle with, and I want you to get first crack at this, like, if you make a move like this, like the Jets making the move for Rodgers, now it didn't work out, but, go back a couple of years ago, the Jets made that move because they thought they were a Rodgers away from maybe messing around and winning a championship, or at least being there in the mix to do so. Do we believe, now we know that Stafford would make them much better and certainly viable, but when you look at the state of the NFC East, let alone the NFC, is it worth it at his age and with the rest of the Giants roster? Yeah, that's the important question.
Okay, is it worth it? Well, what are the other options?
Draft a kid at 3.
Okay, well, that's why I say I think to me, it all comes down to what they feel about this quarterback class. Like if I were Brian Dable and I loved Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, I'm doing whatever. Same thing for Joe Shane. I'm doing whatever I can to get one of those two guys. I'm not saying, well, Stafford's better. If I don't absolutely love one of those two guys, I'm like, then I'd say, here's what the best plan is. And I'm sure they're weighing all these options, and they go over it the same way we're talking about it.
Yeah.
Just they have the expertise. We don't necessarily.
Do they? I was
going to say, at some point they have to start showing it.
Yeah.
But they would weigh the options. Okay, do we, quote unquote, reach for, let's say, Shedeur, or go get Stafford where you know what you're getting? That's what I love about Stafford. I've never loved Stafford as a quarterback. I thought he was overrated. He's going to be a Hall of Famer because he won the Super Bowl, put up big, gaudy numbers, whatever. But I've always thought he's overrated. But we know what he is. He's a pro quarterback who can help you win games immediately, be a leader, all those different things.
I think he's terrific.
Yeah,
I think he's terrific.
He's a good, very good player. Now, at 37, okay, there's some question marks, but he's far better than any of the other options. Sam Darnold, Kirk Cousins, even Justin Fields, like any of those options.
And that's where I was going.
Right. So to me, he seems the most known commodity. Rodgers, throw him in there. I think Stafford's a better option at this particular point, especially for the Giants. So of all the other options, I think he's the best. The only question is, do you love the idea of Ward or Sanders and their potential versus the known commodity of Stafford at 37?
That's a very subjective thing. That's a very individual thing. Myself, I don't. I like Cam Ward better than Sanders, and I don't even love Cam Ward. And, the Shedeur Sanders stuff has nothing to do with, the Deion stuff, or, whether it's, maybe a bit of a misplaced ego in college. I mean, I don't get too wrapped up in that. He grew up with Deion's son. He's going to know how to comport himself, how to work hard. He's going to be a pro. I'm not worried about that.
Do we think he's good?
Yeah, I just don't know if he's good enough. Right. I really don't. I don't love the conference he played in. I don't love his throwing mechanics. He's not an elite athlete. He's not like his measurables. He's not like 6'5" or 6'4", 230. He's not. He's kind of counter to a lot of the explosive quarterbacks now, where he's a good athlete, but he's not amazing. So really it comes down to this. At number 3, and you nailed it, do you love Sanders or do you love Cam? Now, if you love Cam, I think you're going to have to move up from 3 to 1 or 3 to 2 to get him. I don't think you're going to have to necessarily move up from 3 to get Shedeur, but I'll let them deal with that.
Right.
How do you evaluate the young quarterbacks? If the answer is lukewarm or below that, well, now you get to the next choice of options, and the next choice of options would be, what's the quickest way to elevate our franchise? Because now, if you don't draft a kid at number 3, you better start winning some games, which means you better get a quarterback who's going to get you in the end zone 25 to 30 times this year. And I know that Stafford would do that. I think Darnold would do that, but I think that the Raiders now are going to go after heavy for Darnold. I saw that today. Nobody else out there intrigues me enough. Maybe Justin Fields. Sal, the more I think about this, this should be a very viable play for the Giants.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And Cooper Kupp comes.
I wasn't really thinking, well, that, is a whole nother level. And also, by the way, think about Stafford, a veteran quarterback, a proven quarterback, also helping along a young Malik Neighbors or some of the younger guys that the Giants have. I think there's great value in it, even though I really wanted right now, and I wanted it last year, a franchise quarterback for the Giants, meaning one that we could hold our hopes on that could be the guy moving forward. I think there's a lot of appealing pieces to bringing in Stafford to this team right now. They could fit him in with the cap. You get a proven veteran winner. The Giants, and specifically Shane and Dable, you know what the owner wants. They need wins now.
Yeah.
He could help them do that. And then, to your point, you could use that third pick to help Stafford and the rest of your team, whether it's a piece on the offensive line, a defensive stuff, whatever it may be, whatever they decide to do with that third pick.
He could trade out at that point big time.
The only reason I would not want this option is if they love Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders.
It's a good read. Yeah.
If you love either of those two guys, then you do whatever it takes to get him.
Well,
if not, then Stafford, I think, is the second best option.
All right, I know people want to jump in on this. We'll get the calls, but why not? Let's at least throw this, because I don't know that we've included this as an option. We've given you 3. If you love one of those kids, why not draft Sanders or Ward and get Stafford?
Well, to me, the issue is you're going to have to pay Stafford a significant amount of money.
Sure. You got the money.
And I would think that he would. And again, I'm sure he'd want to be a mentor, but you're talking about at least 2 years, right? This is different from Rodgers because of the age. Jets got Rodgers at 39, right?
Yes.
Stafford's 37. So you're talking about 2 years.
Just turned 37, yeah.
Also, Stafford's not going to be coming here to try to make this team a Super Bowl winner the way that the Jets thought they were getting Rodgers to be the finishing piece on a Super Bowl team. Meanwhile, they weren't even 500 team. So that was just so ridiculous. This is totally different circumstance, but I don't believe that it would benefit Stafford or the Giants or whoever they draft if they brought him in here with the idea of having to be the guy for the next 2 to 3 years while drafting one of those top guys. You want to tell me somebody later in the draft? I'm not opposed to that.
Why, though? You don't think that he would want to work under those conditions? Because it's not like Kurt Warner with Eli. I get you, but I think that Stafford's got more game at this point than Kurt. But then again, Kurt went to the Cardinals and played very well.
Right, he doesn't want to go. Well, I'm assuming he's going to want to go somewhere and play for the next 2 years.
He is going to play.
Right, so what are you going to do? Sit Sanders for 2 years? Like, to me, that's almost then
a waste of a pick.
Well, you're half weighing it. I'm a no gray area. I want to either, okay, this is the plan. Stafford, an additional player to help build this foundation and win.
Yeah.
We'll figure out the quarterback over the course of the next 2 years. Again, you could take somebody later, but I'm not taking a top pick. And if you were going to do that anyway, that means you love that player. And in today's day and age in the NFL, you want to get a read on what these guys are at the very least by year 2.
Because of the money for the second contract.
Right?
But think about this, Sal. Like, if Kirk Cousins didn't just bomb the final 7 weeks of the season and Kirk Cousins had a Kirk Cousins, vintage year, then the Falcons would have been doing what I'm saying. Now, by the way, that's not my first plan for the Giants. I'd rather trade out and just a boatload of assets plus Stafford plus Kupp and move on from the third spot. But if Cousins was balling this year, then they would have had the same exact thing that you're saying that the Giants shouldn't want.
So here's the difference. I don't believe Atlanta went into that draft looking to take an additional quarterback. One that they loved happened to be there, and they took him. So let's say that the Giants love Cam Ward but not Sanders, and somehow Ward falls to 3. Then you want to convince me to take him? Okay, fair enough.
Okay,
I don't think it's the worst thing in the world.
So we're open to pretty much 4 or 5 things here from the Giants' perspective.
Point is, I'm starting to get the feeling, and I think you're in agreement, that Stafford to the Giants,
I love him,
takes them up to a level of, you know what, maybe they can be respectable and compete immediately with the weapons around them and be a better team than we thought, which can help them maybe expedite the process here. BT and Sal on the Fan of getting back to respectability. Our friends at Town Fair Tire remind you that at Town Fair Tire, you always get the guaranteed lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. Brian is in Syosset. What's up, Brian?
Hey, bud.
Hey, what's up? Good morning, guys. This Stafford thing's a great conversation to have, but the kind of elephant in my car right now is while it's improved the offensive line, Stafford's not going to run the ball all over the field.
No.
The one thing about Jones is at least he can take off. So, even though a stopgap works no matter who we take, as long as he's decent, that's going to be a real problem. And if he's getting sacked all over the place early, it's going to be a big problem very quickly.
Let me ask you this, Brian. I hear you, and that's been a problem for the Giants forever. What's the difference, though? Wouldn't you rather, and maybe the answer is no, I think I would rather have Stafford behind a little bit of a suspect. By the way, you can always get one more guy, and it's going to be better next year. But I'd rather have Stafford behind a bit of a shaky old line than a kid like Cam Ward and Sanders who don't even know what they're reading in front of them, where they could get sacked 45 times in a year and they could be ruined.
Well, look,
Stafford gets hit, he's used to getting hit.
I mean, the Giants' season, yet again, is going to go down to the health of Andrew Thomas like it always does, right? And not only that, that's another reason why I say, well, if you get Stafford, I want to use that third pick. I mean, if there's a stud lineman that they want, Abdul Carter is a appealing piece if he's there.
You think?
But yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. So you just take the best player available, which should help you in other areas, and then maybe in free agency, if you take Carter, let's say, then in free agency, go out there and beef up the offensive line. Obviously, we know that with Stafford here, he's not going to be a mobile quarterback. That's never really been his game at all. So they got to figure out a way to get the ball out of his hands quickly or protect the quarterback better, and that starts with getting Thomas healthy. If he's not healthy, what are they supposed to do? They're going to be screwed again.
Yeah. Listen, but you're kind of like glossing over it. I actually think that they could get Cooper Kupp too. I think that those guys are so tight.
Here's why I'm glossing over it.
I think Cooper Kupp would follow him here.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't like that. Does nothing for me. Just
Cooper Kupp's tremendous.
Yeah, but again, you don't win. I want inside out.
I got you.
It's just my fault. Like, and
fair.
Giants already have neighbors. I'm not saying Kupp wouldn't be a solid addition. But I'm like, I want them to build inside out.
You don't want the Cadillac hood ornament. You want an engine that's going to purr.
Yeah,
I understand what you mean, but I think you could do both is what I'm saying.
Maybe, but if you're telling me that it's either Stafford and a lineman or Stafford and Kupp, I want Stafford and the lineman.
I would agree with that, too.
That's just my thing.
I would agree with that.
And Cooper Kupp, whatever. At this point, I know he's banged up last year.
Really good, dude.
Yeah, he's good. I know, I get it.
It's like a number 2, number 3 next to Neighbors.
I'm curious why Stafford would be available.
Because they don't want to pay him.
Right, but why not?
I don't know. I honestly,
what are they
I don't know.
do?
Who cares? I honestly don't know.
I know, and you're right. Who cares? Because that's their problem. But just thinking through the logistics of why Stafford would be available, and if he were, why you and I, or people in New York would want him. Like, look at all the other options. They're all question marks, crappy. Like, even Fields is like, I'm not sure. Darnold, whatever. I mean, Kirk Cousins, God knows. So if the Rams are going to move on from Stafford because they don't want to pay him, which I respect, then I would think that they're going to look to go in a younger, different direction.
Remember, they already had their Super Bowl, so they can already reset. They've got that built-in equity.
And they major problems with the cap, right? Because they trade all their draft picks. They sold their soul.
For about 5 or 6 years, they didn't have any first-round picks. They kept doing that for sure. And eventually you got to pay the piper. You can only kick that cap stuff down the road so much. That's why the Rodgers thing, yesterday we said I said just take it all in 1 year rather than spreading out the $35 million in addition to next year. But I think that the Rams want to go younger, and here's the only problem that I see from a Giants perspective. When he opts out of his contract with the Rams, because of the flaws of all the other guys, you're going to have a massive bidding war.
Right.
Like Stafford's getting paid again.
Which is why we say a fit for the Giants and not necessarily the Jets, because the Jets aren't going to have the cap space that the Giants could to pay that quarterback.
Correct.
You know what? Again, even just thinking this through, the Giants have been such a beaten down franchise, mocked to the point where planes are flying over saying, fire everybody, sell the team, all that stuff. Stafford changes that immediately. I don't know how the results are going to be, but all of a sudden now you have a proven Super Bowl winning quarterback.
Yep.
Doesn't come with the baggage, right or wrong, that Aaron Rodgers comes with. I agree. It's a good fit for them and what they would be trying to do, at least in the short term. Dan is in Belmar. What's up, Dan?
Hey, what's up, guys? Loving this conversation. I agree with both of you. Stafford makes the most sense. He's not a crapshoot like Sanders will be or even Cam Ward will be, and it makes them competent and competitive immediately, and that's all we're asking for as Giants fans after watching this crap for the past 5 years. Finally, you bring this guy in. If Kupp comes with him or he doesn't come with him, it doesn't really matter to me, but bring Kupp in too. Perfect. He still has an explosive arm, and he'll unlock Neighbors, he'll unlock Wan'Dale Robinson, and he'll unlock Jalen Hyatt. It'll be a perfect fit for the Giants and for Stafford.
Theo Johnson, too, who I really like. Right. I like him as a tight end.
Much better than Jalen Hyatt. I don't know if there's anybody that could unlock Jalen Hyatt, but Theo Johnson, yes. I like the way that the caller just said, and it's kind of like we talked about with St. John's, how I was saying, okay, well, can you be a legit contender in the Big East tournament? Check. Can you be a legit tournament
but not sweating out Selection Sunday.
Yeah.
Yep, you check.
And then, so there's levels of building it back up.
I agree.
With the Giants, you're not going to go from 0 to, oh my God, we're going to beat the Eagles. So this is a major step. If you could get Stafford, that brings you back to the caller's point, back to respectability, instant credibility, and some competency around here for a change. That's the next step. Then from there, they could figure out where they're going to get the franchise quarterback and how they're going to get to the next level. But let's take baby steps here. I think Stafford goes a long way in that.
Listen, I'm totally with you. You and I totally agree. So far, Giant fans are really feeling this. I'm not surprised at all. If you watch the NFL, you know Stafford could still play. There is nothing to interpret. Does he still have the arm? Does his body hold? He is still a stud. And you're right. You're not going to go from the acquisition of Stafford to, necessarily beating the Eagles regularly, Super Bowl champions. But I'll tell you what you're not going to do either. You're not going to lose. You're not going to win one game in the NFC East. You're not going to, have a point differential of minus 190. Like you're not going to be embarrassed every single Sunday. And I do think a lot of people mess this up. They're like, well, if you're not building to win the Super Bowl, why bother? Like, why build, even though it's much more attractive than being a doormat, like, why build less than if it's not for the ultimate accomplishment? Well, I get that fundamentally, but there's nothing written that says, well, maybe they become a wild card team with Stafford, and then in a year or two, they stumble upon a franchise quarterback down the road. Like, I don't know, the Eagles did.
Right. Right. That's the
Let's go, Giants.
There you go. That's the exact way to think about it at this point. BT and Sal on the Fan, 888-808-1019. More of your calls when we come back. We'll get into the baseball stuff, some Knicks later on. A lot to do on this Tuesday on the Fan.